Over the course of the last several days, you have been slowly revising some of your narrative. We've worked on endings. They sound amazing. I cannot wait to see your finished pieces. We are getting very close to the publishing portion of your writing workshop lesson. And I'd like for everyone to use a revision checklist to be sure that your narrative includes all the elements of good writing that we have studied so far this year. The revision checklist focuses on all the many lessons that we've covered so far about writing. And as the year progresses, this list will be adapted to reflect more skills we learn about in our writing workshop. One thing you have to remember, you can look at this revision checklist, and checking everything off does not mean you will receive the highest score, or checking things off to say you're done when you really didn't change anything on your rough draft doesn't mean you're done either. In order to use this checklist wisely, it's very important to practice reading your own writing over and over again, and practice looking at your own writing for areas where you can improve before you attempt to publish your writing. So today we're going to use this checklist on your narratives that you've just written. And just an FYI, for your information, a little secret here. I use the same checklist to grade your writing. So before we jump in to revise your writing, we're going to take a look at how you can make some of the corrections that will need to be made on your rough draft. Okay. But first, I want you to look over this, okay? These are all the different things that I'm going to be grading for your ideas, your organization of your written paper, the voice, meaning, what kind of words did you use to describe how you were feeling, or the emotions during your story, right? Your word choice, are you using specific nouns, strong verbs, okay? How, are you using transitions while you're writing so it makes it sound smooth and natural? But this is the checklist that Mrs. Pluta is going to be using. And if at any time while you're writing and you're using this checklist and you have a question, please message me. Not the day it's due, but in advance, okay, so that you know how to fix your rough draft of your writing. So let's take a look at a piece of writing, okay? So here is the beginning of a narrative story, okay? It's more of like persuasion, where the title is called, We All Know That Science is the Bestest, okay? So as we're looking at this writing, okay, before I even start to read it, I can see a couple things where I would need to improve. First of all, I would need to improve that this is one big lump of a paragraph, okay? I shouldn't have this many sentences in one paragraph. And this is actually probably like 3, 4 paragraphs all in one, okay? There's no indentation. But let's talk about what I do notice that's going to help me be able to revise and edit my work a lot better. Starting at the red line and writing all the way to the end and skipping every other line. When you look at making your revision, you need to read this out loud, okay? I know it sounds silly. However, reading your own writing out loud will help you understand if you didn't write a sentence correctly or if you need to add in more details, okay? So if I was to read this out loud, okay, we all know that science is the bestest. I believe that science is better than math. Imagine the bubbling formulas, the complex solutions, the interesting experience. This is just a snake's peek. That should say sneak peek into the world of science. First of all, science has more interesting lessons and activities than math. Second, I should probably put examples in here of what interesting lessons there are in science. Second of all, math is only equations and numbers. Lastly, math is only equations and numbers. There should be a period here, and this is another paragraph. Lastly, science is most, and then it continues, okay? So you need to read that out loud. You need to read your own writing out loud so that you can hear where you need to make some changes. So I'm going to use either a colored pencil, a crayon, a pen, a highlighter, and I am going to make some marks on my rough draft so that I can see where I made changes. Well, taking a quick look at it, I know I need to underline the title. All the words in the title should be capitalized. Bestest is not a word, but best is. I'm going to circle the words that are not spelled correctly, okay? If when in doubt, circle it, and so that you know that when you're doing your editing, you can go and look up the word to see how you spell it. And, you know, you might be right, you might be wrong, but if you're wrong, then you take your pencil and you write the word above it written correctly. I also, and I should have that up here too, I should have an arrow here to show that I need to indent for my paragraph. And then when I do this paragraph, that's its own line indented, okay? So it's not like a run-on, like I'm going to leave the arrow there to show that that's another paragraph. No, I need to rewrite this correctly. I also put like a little caret here to show that I need to add more facts about what makes science more interesting. Like, what are some examples of the lessons and activities that are a lot more interesting in science than in math? Because a paragraph cannot be just one sentence. I need to have more details. And then here's another one to show that this is the next paragraph. So I would have to come down here and indent. And again, at the end of this paragraph, I need to add punctuation. And, and I also need to add more details. And then here's my third paragraph of the body of my paper. So again, I'm going to do this marking up with either colored pencils, a pen, a colored pen. I wouldn't use markers because the ink will bleed and it'll be harder for you to read. Or you can use like a small highlighter and highlight different things, and then use pencil to add in your corrections. So after we're done revising, we're going to jump into editing. All right, finally, one more step closer to publishing. Okay, so when I look at editing, okay, editing is actually a little bit harder to do than the revision, because the revision, you're reading it out loud and you're hearing where you need to improve. But when you edit, when you're reading in your head, you often read what you think you have written rather than what you actually wrote. So I'm going to show you how to carefully edit your own writing. Okay. Once again, when we look at our editing, yes, Mrs. Pluto's going to say it, you need to reread your writing. I know we've done this several times, but you know what? That's okay, because we can always find ways to improve our writing. So I'm going to look at our editing checklist, right? When we edit our paper, you are reading your work for a different reason. You've already revised your paper, looking for ways to make your writing sound and look better by adding descriptive words, adding paragraphs, rearranging the paragraphs or sentences to make your writing sound better and paint a picture in the reader's mind. When we edit, we're going to look at spelling, capital letters, punctuation marks, dialogue, the speaking parts, and run-on sentences. When we edit, we want to focus on one checklist item at a time. For instance, spelling, okay? We're going to go back to the very beginning, even our title, okay? And you are going to go back and look at every single word to make sure that word is spelled correctly. If it doesn't look right, it probably isn't. And you're going to circle those words. Okay, you're going to go through the whole thing and circle all the words that don't look right or you definitely know that you misspelled. Because remember, when you're writing your rough draft, I told you just to write the words, not worry about the spelling so that you could get your ideas out there. Now we're going to focus on the spelling. Okay, once you go through the whole entire paper and circle all the words that you know are not spelled correctly. All right, even if it's the same one over and over and over again, circle it every time so that you know that you need to go back and you need to write it correctly above that word. You can use a dictionary. You can use dictionary.com to spell a word. If you have like an Alexa, you can always say like, spell believe, and it'll spell it out for you. You're going to focus on looking for mistakes and fixing them, right? And again, it's a good idea to use colored pens, colored pencils, or highlighter when you're editing and revising your work. We're going to listen to a little story before you begin to edit and revise your own work. And it is called Punctuation Takes a Vacation by Robin Pulver. And in the next activity, you're actually going to listen to the story.